is a coming and a coming and a go. I said, war is a war is a war is a coming and a war is a coming and a. All right, folks, we got some huge breaking news. We weren't going to do a video today, but of course, the news changed that. There is a huge event going on, and of course, we don't know how huge it is, but I have a feeling that this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful relationship with war. An evacuation order has been issued for South Korean border island of Yeonpyeong. Now, if you are watching this tomorrow, there may be some settle down. They may say tomorrow that all of this is good. But I want to remind you guys, we have been talking about this for now months, and we have actually covered very specific things that we want to point out to you today, and I hope you share this out with friends and family. Obviously, we have covered over the last week and a half, we've done videos on how there's a huge threat for a cyber event, not only here in the US, but in Europe, in Australia, in Canada, in pretty much every ally of the US's. But again, we'll talk about that here in just 1 second. Definitely share this out with your friends and family for absolutely sure. Before we go deeper into this, though, I do want to bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So this is based on information that has come out over the last hour. Things may change by the time you see this tomorrow. Heck, we might be in an entirely different place by tomorrow. But they are saying that this South Korean island has now been evacuated. We have the official story behind that. We also have some of the other reasoning. At first, they were saying it was evacuated because there was artillery fire. Now, we believe there was artillery fire, but on top of that, they are actually saying they may have been evacuating it because of something else. So we'll get to that here in a second. But I want to remind you of something we covered, and we've been talking about this since the U.S. and South Korea did specific drills, and these drills were different than the cut the head off of the snake drills they've been doing for several years that North Korea, Kim Jong-un, does not like. Those drills, they already had red lines over that, and of course we cross over that every time we do those drills. There was separate drills done just recently, and the actual line of text that came out on this, the written quotes about this drill were that it was a scenario that North Korea would do a surprise attack on South Korea, and that it would be comparatively much like what happened to Israel. So like the October 7 thing, right? So they actually used that October 7 event as something to compare. So North Korea fires a bunch of artillery shells, and in this drill scenario that they did, they would then take out all of the origin or the artillery weapons in North Korea. As it sits, North Korea has hundreds of artillery weapons that are facing, I think it might even be in the thousands, don't know. But that is the biggest threat because they can't actually reach far into South Korea. They're extremely close. The DMZ is right there. They can fire off and hit tons of places. Now, something strange happened the other day. Dex, do you want to talk about what we covered just a few days ago, December 28th, 6 or 7 days ago, about a week exactly, what they said of how they were going to respond, or how told them how to respond?
Yeah, absolutely. So they told the leadership told the military that they have to respond first now to an enemy attack and then report it later. No longer, to report and then deal with it. They want them to retaliate immediately on any attack that happens on them. They have been ordered now to attack, then report. So that retaliation is something that is a change in them because they made this a very strong position. This was the South Korean president Yoon Suk Yeol who said this Thursday. He ordered the country's armed forces to respond immediately to enemy attacks, reestablishing first, retaliating first, and only then reporting. So
Yeah, in case of provocations, I ask you to immediately retaliate in response and report it later. Like, this is nuts. As we talked about the other day, that's pretty ass backwards if you ask me. But North Korea fires 200 artillery shells. South Korea orders evacuation on island. Now remember that this is coming out as it goes, and as the news is rolling out, this is going to rapidly change. South Korea issued an evacuation notice to the residents of the island of Yeonpyeong on Friday near the North Korean border after it was reported that the South's military would be carrying out live fire drills in the region. And then, of course, update: South Korea orders evacuation on island near North Korea border. Now, I also want to point out, with the drills and with everything else, North Korea and South Korea is totally something that we have predicted, even if this doesn't go down today or tomorrow, that this is something that we believe is going to happen. If you look at Israel, Hamas, if you look at Russia and Ukraine, if you look at all of these things, Venezuela and Guyana, the U.S. is getting pulled into these proxy conflicts where we are now stretching ourselves thin. In my belief, and this is my personal belief, if China was to go to war with the U.S., I believe if their long game was that they would end up having the U.S. and even possibly having people on the inside, paid people that were on their side or along their cause. I would think that they would line up something to where they stretched the U.S. military thin. Now, what would stretch them even thinner than right now, supporting different proxies around the world? Having another proxy conflict, South Korea and North Korea, which we just recently said that we are going to be supporting South Korea, starting some sort of Asian NATO. And of course, we have put nuclear submarines there. We have put bombers there. We've been basically saying that we would help them. We've been drilling with them. We're doing these live fire drills. Dex, go ahead.
There's now an additional island, and I hear maybe even more are being evacuated. I've got a link for you in Screener if you want to pull that up.
Okay, perfect. And by the way, they're saying the reason for the evacuation order, this is going to rapidly change. It's going to go back and forth. The reason for the evacuation order for residents on Yeonpyeong Island is reportedly not because of the earlier coast artillery fire by North Korea, because that exists, that did happen, but instead due to radio communications by North Korean forces, which have been intercepted by South Korean intelligence, suggesting that they will open fire against settlements on the island if the South Korean military decided to respond with live fire drills. Well, why are they taking this seriously, right? Everybody just looks at North Korea and they say, oh, they're a joke. They're not going to actually do anything. Something may be changing right now, and that something may have something to do with what is going on in the rest of the world. I think North Korea, in the grand scheme of things, you could put on whichever hat you want to put on at this point, but I believe that this is going to get bigger, and I have been telling people for a very long time, and when this does go down, and I believe it's a matter of time, all of these things, China, Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Venezuela, Guyana, all of these parties are going to get involved. Every party is going to be involved. This is what a world war looks like. And remember, they did not declare World War II as World War II. In fact, there were headlines that were as late as 1945. That's when they actually started really dubbing it World War II. Before that, it was just a bunch of different collisions. Now, of course, the U.S. declared certain things. This did, but they didn't call it a world war until the very end of it. That's because people didn't realize they were in one. So, Dex, did you say that was in Screener, or let's see here?
It's in Screener.
Okay, so check this out. Excuse me, guys.
And while you're pulling that up, Jim Pop in chat says, according to his information, the Korean term in the language that were in the characters that were used, it was an order to take cover versus a evacuation, which was different. Nonetheless, it's still an event, whether or not. But we're reporting what's coming out of.
Well, no. Well, because there was both. There Seek Shelter.
There probably is both. Yeah,
there are Seek Shelter orders, and that was coming out in the first 4 or 5 minutes after this happened. So right. I watched as it changed from Seek Shelter to evacuate, and then it changed again back to Seek Shelter. So assume that this is going to change over the next 24 hours. Heck, we could see tomorrow that this completely changes. The reason why we are, covering this, and because this very well, by tomorrow, hopefully is just brought back down to zero. But my point is people need to actually be looking at the long-term, the results of what is going to happen in this world. And this is exactly what we have predicted. This is what our community has been talking about. It just shows you all that you are all on the right track with this. The entire community has talked about this. We've all seen the patterns. We've seen what was going to happen, and now it's happening. We don't have to have a crystal ball to predict these things. This is a bad B movie, and exactly what you think is going to happen next is going to happen. The person's going to run up the stairs instead of out the front door, the open front door to the car with the keys turned on. They're going to run up the stairs instead in the horror movie. That's the movie we're watching right now. And unfortunately, it is not going well. And it's not to be a pessimist. It's not to be a fearmonger. Everybody loves to say that. But again, all of us preppers are going to be ready for this. And the people who are saying, you're just fearmongering, they're not going to have crap in their house. And they're going to be knocking at our doors, demanding that we help them because they didn't prepare. Honestly, looked at as a prepper is just like, at some point, when you follow this so closely, it's kind of like somebody who is in, ninth grade geometry walking up to a Harvard professor, mathematics professor, and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, and I'm not saying we're professors or anything, but when you follow the patterns this closely, when you follow news, when you spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day following every world event, you know a little bit more than the average guy that's catching stuff at the water cooler. And I'm talking about all of you. I know all of you are the same way we are. So it's our whole community that are working together. We have over 1,000 military members in our active group right now. And the ones we talk to on a daily basis, we have several that are currently serving. We're even about to talk to one that is serving and might even be able to give us a publicly okay to give scoop that nobody knows about with this whole B-1 thing. They just had a recent B-1 crash, and they successfully ejected out the pilots. So there's lots of stuff going on here. It doesn't take rocket science to understand that war is happening right now. What I don't understand is it takes the opposite of a rocket science it takes almost a rocket science to figure out ways to deny that this is happening. But what do you guys think? Let me know what you think is happening here. Do you think that North Korea and South Korea are going to pop off? I think it's only fitting for how things have gone so far. It's also going to be before we all drop the ballot in the box. They need a bigger war if they're going to stop that. So, Dex, and we'll update you guys as this ends up getting. Tomorrow we'll have a big update on this, and we'll be able to tell you if it's as bad as we think it is. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, pay attention. We're gonna keep watching it. I think I've heard up to 3, but I can't find the third island. But this second island is the one, and this is a nearby island, so it makes sense. It's close to the first one that is also being told to evacuate. So we'll keep paying attention to this.
Also, make sure to follow me over on Twitter. That is at Marfoogle, Marfoogle. You can, of course, find that. And right now, already trending is it is U.S. and Israel, and then the second biggest one is Yonping Island. So this is going to be big news tomorrow, and you, of course, have been hearing about this for months from us, and now all of a sudden it's happening. I just can't believe it. I never would have thought. Unfortunately, this also leads us into a bigger conflict that eventually we are also looking at all of the other threats, all of the other things that are predicted, the W and the E and the F, saying that it is likely we're going to have a catastrophic cyber event in the next 2 years. That's coming from the Economic Forum. You have DHS warning us about big threats, FBI saying there's never been more threats in the planet. You could say all of this is propaganda to scare us or to get us to think a certain way before, changing of presidents. You could say that. Again, preppers are still going to look at it and go, there is a chance of this happening. We are going to look at it like that and responsibly prepare for the possible outcomes. Hopefully, and we are all hoping that nothing happens. We absolutely hope that nothing happens, but we're going to prepare otherwise. Thank you guys and love you. Dex, thank you so much for your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And remember, you can always go over and find everything over at our website, a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Also, I'd highly recommend, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Again, that is at marfooglenews.com/EMP. This can protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, houses from an actual EMP strike. This is the same company that has outfitted agencies like DHS and DOD, and not to mention they're on the DEMSO team protecting the Texas grid. So make sure to go check it out. Very easy to put in your car. marfooglenews.com/EMP to get $50 off and to help us as well. Make sure to use that code MARF. If you haven't already, go over to our other channel. You will see that we have a lot of great stuff over on the show that happened earlier tonight. We talked about the race to the moon. We talked about acquiring ballistic missiles. We talked about the Red Sea is boiling over. Responsibility claimed for the Iran attack that was a giant deal at the gathering of course, Soleimani's celebration. We talked about the 10-foot tall aliens in Miami Mall. Not kidding. That's what people are talking about. Huge. Hundreds of cops showed up to a couple of kids fighting, and some people said that it was actually because of aliens. Highly doubt that it was aliens, but I also highly doubt it was kids fighting with sticks and fireworks. And then, of course, the New York City subway incident where the two trains crashed, underground shelter shut down, and, of course, Clinton gets out to Mexico. These are all over on Marfoogle TV. Make sure to go check out that channel. You can go to marfooglenews.com to find everything. Love you guys. Be safe. And if there's any other emergency broadcast, it will happen here.
Travel back in time like we